Hey everyone, my name is Brittany and welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll be reading some historical romance.
It's Brittany, bitch.
Ever since we started rewatching the show Outlander, I've really been in the mood for some historical romance, and one of these is actually a Scottish Highland romance, which works perfectly. If you didn't already know, I've kind of gotten into historical romance and romance in the last couple of years. It's really just been doing it for me, and I requested these two books on ARCS literally last year, like the end of 2022. I really need to get to them, which is also why I've been trying to prioritize this reading vlog, but also because I've literally had them on my TBR, like my working TBR, like every single month since I got them, because I really want to read these books. I just keep not reading them because I have other reading vlogs going on. Not any longer. We're finally getting to them, and the first one we're going to read is In Her Highlander's Bed by Lindsay Sands. This is a Highlander romance. This is the 11th one in the series. I think it's the Highland Bride series. I have to say, I've never actually read any of Lindsay Sands' books. This is my first book by her, so I actually don't know if I'm going to absolutely love the language in this. I'm not sure if I'm going to love the writing, but I really love the premise because I'm just obsessed with anything with a Scottish Highlander and a romance. It's just one of my weird book kinks. It just works for me. Long story short, our hero and heroine meet in kind of an unlikely situation, which isn't technically in a good way, but our hero is swimming in the lake, and the heroine was brutally attacked by one of the neighboring clans, and she's literally running naked through the land, and she steals his plaid to clothe herself, and then he chases after her thinking she's a boy, and she falls and hits her head, and he ends up helping her recuperate back in his room. So he takes her to his castle where he's the laird, and he takes care of her, and his whole family helps take care of her as well. It seems a little bit like a closed room romance, and what I mean by that is we're literally in a room the whole time is what it sounds like what's going to be happening, because I'm not sure what else is going to be going on while she's recovering from her attack, and he's also recovering from getting an arrow in the shoulder. So there's a lot of recovering and healing going on. I hope this really scratches my Scottish romance Highlander itch that I've been having for quite some time, because I love Outlander as a show, but the book absolutely fucking terrifies me because I've tried reading it before and it's so long, and this is a normal sized book. I just realized how frizzy and uncurly my hair looks. Please just ignore that. It is incredibly humid and hot here. It feels like it's 100 degrees, and it literally says that on the fucking weather channel. So it's a little hot, it's a little humid, and give me a break. Anyway, I'm not sure if I'm going to update you when I get into the book or when I finish it. I have not yet decided. I've kind of liked my format lately of just finishing a book and then giving you my full thoughts. I feel like it's helping cut back a little bit on erroneous filming, I'm going to call it, filming extra. At least sometimes I get a couple days in between where I'm not filming because I am busy reading. I think that's been kind of nice for my mental health, but I also kind of like giving you updates because it keeps me more interested in a book sometimes when I have to explain something to you and give you an update. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to get further into this and let you guys know. I will say, I think that historical romance is probably one of my favorite genres because you know what? It just almost never misses. I read In Her Highlander's Bed, and I have to say, I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed this book. It was a really fun time. I really liked all the tropes in it. Even though we didn't really go a whole lot of places, it was still a good ass read. And it was a really fun, fast read too. Let me sum this up a little bit. So we have our hero, Callan, and we have our heroine, Alicent. I think that's how you say her name. We'll just call her Allie. Allie has a whole bunch of different sisters and brothers, and I think that her family is maybe one of the ones that they follow in the series because I think her sister was the romance prior to this. This is obviously number 11, so I think that's where that comes from. And basically Allie leaves at the beginning of the novel to go find her brother in the clearing, and she's actually kidnapped and then attacked, and she's very nearly assaulted. So I want to let you know that there is a sexual assault that is attempted, and that's why she ends up running away, and she ends up stealing Callan's plaid while he is taking a dip in the loch, which is the lake. So he's just taking a dip in the lake after he was wounded with an arrow, and so he's just kind of relaxing, and it's kind of the early morning dawn hours, and he couldn't tell who stole his plaid. He thought it was a naked boy running through the forest, and so he chases after her and actually knocks her out unconscious because he tackles her, and then realizes that she's covered in bruises and she's obviously very badly beaten, and so he takes her back to his castle to recuperate and try to remember who she is, because at the beginning she feigns amnesia and pretends that she doesn't know who she is or what's going on or what happened, because she doesn't know if Callan and his family are basically friendly with the guy who did this. So that's kind of the whole premise of this setup. And most of this book is just them talking in the room because they can't let her out, because they can't risk her being discovered and having this dude come after her again, because basically he wants to like kill her entire family and take the land. It's kind of wild. So like 99% of this takes place in a castle with his like mom there and with his sister there. And I can't really say that I know too much about these characters. All I really know is they both fucking hate pears and they hate McNaughton. They don't really have a whole lot going on as characters, and I feel like every time that they actually have a conversation together, it's not really feeling like they're getting to know each other. It feels more like they're talking about their family trees and who owns this land and this clan, and like those could have been Easter eggs or something that maybe I would have liked if I'd read the rest of the series, but since I'm reading this as a standalone at the moment, that just did not really work for me. I really wanted to know more about them, and I liked his sister a little bit. I think her name was Ingen. I don't know. Anyway, they call her Ginny when she was little, so I really liked her. I think she was really fun. I think she might have a future romance. I don't know. It wasn't super steamy. I think it was the right amount of steamy. There's also the small mystery of who sold Allie's family out, and I feel like that was incredibly obvious to me. It was pretty early on, and I was like, oh, that's the person that's like the spy. So I wasn't surprised by any of that, and I feel like the ending very formulaic, and I think that's also something I like about historical romance. I don't mind that there's a formula, and I think that this author does a really good job of that as well, but I just wanted like maybe a little bit more of a surprise, and I think I also would have just enjoyed this again more if our main characters had more of a personality, because I don't really have any reason to root against them. I don't really have any reason to like root for them. So anyway, that was a delicious 4-star read, and now I'm on to A Spinster's Guide to Danger and Dukes. This is the other arc that I have to read. I actually started this book when I went to get my toes done the other day, and I actually got 20% in while sitting there for my pedicure for like 2 freaking hours. And I have to say that so far I'm really enjoying this book. We have our main heroine who sees that her sister is being put on trial for murdering her husband, and she basically goes to this like little small town to kind of rescue her sister from the situation. And along the way, while she's at the train station, her purse is stolen, and she sees this duke, and this duke and her have like a history. I don't really know the whole bit of why they have a history, but they don't really particularly like each other. But then he makes her a deal that he'll help her get to her sister and help her sister out with the murder, and in return she has to pretend to be his fiance because he doesn't want to go back home to see his family because they're gonna try to set him up with a different woman. They're trying to get him married off, and so he's like, if you can pretend to be my fiance, I'll help get your sister acquitted from this murder, and we'll basically be there for each other. And I thought that was a really interesting premise. I've never really like thought about it that way, but they obviously didn't really like each other that much, which I think is why it's even funnier. It's kind of like enemies to lovers. And so far, I'm actually really enjoying it. I think it's a really fun, easy read, and I think this thing about historical romance in general is usually they're really fun, easy reads, which I think is exactly what I'm looking for right now. I think these books are helping me out of this reading slump that I've kind of been in from last month, so I can't really complain. When I finally finish this bad boy, I'll let you guys know, but so far I'm really enjoying it, so I do expect at least a good 3 to 4 stars out of this. So I finally ended up finishing A Spinster's Guide to Danger and Dukes, and I really liked this book. I actually really enjoyed this author's writing. I think I'm definitely going to hit up the first and second installments of this book series if I can find them. I had a hard time finding these books, but maybe I'll get lucky and someone will buy them pretty soon, because I actually really enjoyed this author's writing, and I really enjoyed how this book perfectly plotted the romance and the mystery. Like, it worked really well together, which is quite uncommon in my opinion for the historical romances that I've been reading. Usually one of them kind of takes precedence, but both plot lines like kept growing and growing, and they both like merged at the same time. It was really well done. So this was gonna get 4.25 stars out of me. I really liked it. It was really fun, and it was a really fast, easy read, which I keep saying, but like honestly, I feel like if you're really into a book or a genre, like if you don't have to push yourself to read them, because I am pushing myself to read some other books for other vlogs right now, and it has been a hot mess, and I'm just struggling to read them because I'm not interested in them. I don't want to read them right now. I want to read historical fucking romance, and I don't know what it is, but something about that genre is just calling to my soul this entire like month. It's really been a couple of years. I used to be really into horror novels, and I don't know if you noticed that, but I've definitely changed my taste a lot on my channel. I used to really be into just like regular fiction, literary fiction, and horror, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but I really gravitated towards historical romance and romance. Like, I just find them so much more fun sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, this was a really fun, fast-paced historical romance mystery. Like, this this book was just a really fun time, and it involved things like cults and blackmail, and like I guess you can call it a cult, but it's like an underground like group of people. I don't really know what you'd want to call that, but it's like a gathering of people. There's almost like a sacrifice that takes place. It's a really interesting concept. Like this in like Victorian England was just like way too much fun. And this definitely can be read as a standalone, even though there are 2 other novels in the series. And this is obviously the last one. I read it just fine. I could definitely tell from the beginning that our 2 main characters had met in previous novels and just have like a general dislike for one another, but we didn't need that extra like information to enjoy the story. I just enjoyed that they genuinely disliked each other and then grew to fall in love. But we started off with a bang when Poppy got her bag stolen at the train station, and she meets the Duke, and they obviously don't really like each other, but he offers to like pay for her train ride and take her back to the same town that he has his estate. And she's going back to the town to help kind of like solve the murder and acquit her sister of murder, because her sister's husband was murdered and they think she did it. Lo and behold, also this husband actually was destined for Poppy. So Poppy's stepfather tried to get her to marry this dude, and whenever she said no, she's been gone for the past 2 years and left town because she didn't want to get married to him. And then her stepfather made her sister marry this dude. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so the Duke and Poppy make a deal, and part of the deal is that the Duke of Langham, he's going to go ahead and try to help acquit her sister of this murder. And in turn, Poppy is going to go ahead and pretend to be his betrothed, so he is not forced to be matchmaked, basically. Like his whole family had a whole bunch of like options waiting at his estate, and he shows up and he's like, here's my betrothed. And so they have to pretend to be fiancés. Love that trope. And this book just took off from there with like lots of scandals and like this satanic cult sort of thing. It's really interesting. I mean, there's literally sex in a cave, and it was really fun. Like I just wasn't expecting this to be as good of a time as it was. It just surprised me as well, but it surprised me in a really good way. And again, like it was really well written. I loved how the plots intersected the perfect points, and I got to know each one of the characters individually, but they worked really well together. I was just so impressed with how well done Joshua and Poppy's relationship was, along with like the mystery plot. Like I didn't even expect the murderer, okay? Usually I'm pretty good at that, but there were so many good red herrings in this that I really just didn't know who it was. So you know what? Hats off to the author, Miss Collins, because I am very, very impressed. I will definitely be reading more from her because this was just too good of a time not to repeat it. Now, I'm not sure if the other 2 books are also really good in this series, but she has plenty of other books for me to choose from. So I'll probably attempt her in the future, as I also will the other author, Lindsay Sands of In Her Highlander's Bed. I will definitely be attempting both of them at different times. I'm just really getting into this genre. So if you have any historical romance authors that you'd recommend, please drop them down below. But this is the end of the vlog, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys all very, very soon. Have a lovely day.